Hello and welcome to math, where today we're going to continue learning about variables on both sides when they're in an equation and how to solve them. All right, so if you think back to the other video, we learned it says don't call me after midnight, right? Those are the steps on how to solve a multi-step equation. These words will help you remember that. Don't call me after midnight. Each first letter helps you remember what to do. Don't. The don't starts with a D, starts with distribute. All right, call, C starts with C, that would be combine like terms. Me starts with M, and that means move your variables. That means if you have variables on both sides, we want to take one and move it to the other side of the equal sign. All right, after starts with A, so that could be add or subtract. And midnight starts with M, and that means multiply or divide. All right, so if you can remember these steps, you can solve any equation in pre-algebra and next year in algebra. You can solve any equation you can think of if you follow those steps, okay? All right, so here's a practice one over here, in example one. It has this big, long equation, and we're gonna follow these steps, and that's gonna help us get our right answer, okay? So this first thing here, my first step would be distribute, right? So I want to distribute, that's the first D there, distribute. All right, so distribute, I have two sets of parentheses here. So I'm going to distribute this 4x this 4 to the x and this 4 to this -2, and they got 4x and -8, right? So we're distributing that 4 on the left side. And on the right, there's also parentheses we can distribute. We can take this 5 and times it by this stuff, right? So we did 5, we distributed the 5 on the right side. 5 times x gives you 5x, 5 times -4 gives you -20. All right, that is our first step. We always distribute. When we have parentheses, we have to get rid of them. So we distribute to get rid of them. All right, our next step is combine like terms. That's our next step, combine like terms. I'm gonna change colors here. Boom, there we go. All right, combine like terms. So when we combine like terms, I usually draw a big wall of my equal sign. We can only combine on the same side. So we look on our left side, and I can see I can combine this 4x, this -2x. 4x minus 2x gives us 2x. Okay, so we can combine that 4x and that -2x. And when we combine those, we get 2x. All right, so we did that. Now, I can't combine that 8 with that 2x because this doesn't have an x. So now I look to my right side. Can I combine these two things? I cannot, because this has an x and this doesn't have an x, so I just brought it down. Okay, so our next step is to move the variable to one side. Move the variable to one side. In this example, they moved this 2x. So this was a positive 2x, so they did -2x. So they subtracted 2x from both sides. The reason they did that is that these cancel out and leaves you with just -8. And over here, they did 5x minus 2x, because you have to do the same thing to both sides, and they got 3x. And they still have that -20. All right, and our next step is add or subtract. And we always do the opposite of what's happening. So we look on the side where the variable is, and I see it's 3x minus 20, right? So we always want to do the opposite of that. So instead of a -20, we did a +20. So we're going to plus 20 to both sides. And they did that because these would then cancel out and leave you with 3x here. And then we did -8 plus 20 gives you 12. And then our last step is to multiply or divide. So I see there, I have a 3x over there. Multiply, I'm just gonna put a division symbol, you guys know that. All right, so I see a 3x, this means multiply. So to get rid of the 3's, I have to divide by 3, cancel those out, and leave me with just x. And then 12 divided by 3 is 4. So we divided it by 3 on both sides. Okay, all right, so using these steps, you can solve any equation out there. Don't call me after midnight. All right, let's do some more practice problems here. All right, so I have this one down here. What I usually do is I write don't call me after midnight down the side of next to my equation, because that will help me remember my steps. Okay, so now I have my don't call me after midnight. My first step says distribute, right? So I have to get rid of these parentheses by distributing. So I take that 3 times it to the m, and I'm also going to times it to that -10. 3 times m gives me 3m, and 3 times -10 gives me -30. And then I can bring down everything else. I just drew a big wall there because that helps me solve my equation. All right, my next step, I did distribute already, so I'm done with that. My next step is to combine my like terms. So I can only combine on the same side. I look to my left, nothing to combine, so I can just bring that down. Negative 2m. I look to my right, nothing to combine, so I can just bring that down. 3m minus 30. Can't combine anything, so I'm done with that step. All right, my next step is to move my variable. All right, so I'm going to move my variable. I have a variable on both sides. I got to take one and move it to the other side. So I see I have a 3m here. It's positive, so I'm going to do a minus 3m or a negative 3m, and I've got to do that to the opposite side too. We do the same thing to both sides. 3m minus 3m cancels out and leaves me with negative 30. Over here, negative 2m minus 3m gives me negative 5m. And I'm done with moving my variable. All right, my next step is I want to add or subtract. Well, there's nothing to add or subtract because I'm just left with negative 5m equals negative 30. So I'm done with that step. My last step is multiply or divide. A number next to a letter means multiply, so I'm going to divide by negative 5 to cancel out those negative 5s and leave me with m. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Negative 30 divided by negative 5 is a negative divided by negative is a positive. 30 divided by 5 is 6. So I get m equals 6. All right, so let's check our work, see if we got that right. So we got m equals 6. So I'm going to type in m equals 6. I'm going to type the left side of my equation in, my original equation here. Negative 2m. All right, hit enter. I'm going to type in the right side. I see it's 3 parentheses m minus 10. And I see that these two things both equal each other, and that's what they wanted. They're one of those two things that equal each other, so we know we got it right. Way to go. Okay, let's try this middle one. So first thing, always write, don't call me after midnight. Don't call me after midnight. We're going to write that on the side. Don't call me after midnight. All right, I'm going to draw my wall, my equal sign. My first step is distribute. So I'm going to take this negative 8 here and distribute it to these things here. Negative 8 times 4 would be a negative 32. And that 4 had an x, so I'm going to keep an x with it. Negative 8 times positive 5 will give me a negative 40. And there's no other distribute, so I can just bring everything else down. I can bring down that negative 4x. I can bring down everything on this side because there's no distributing on that side. All right, and I'm done with distributing. All right, my next step is combine like terms, and I can only combine things that are on the same side. My left side, I can't combine these things, so I'm just going to bring it down. Negative 7 minus 3x. Can't combine those two because that 3 has an x and that 7 doesn't. On my right side, though, I can combine this negative 4x and this negative 32x. Negative 4 minus 32 will give me negative 36x. I can't combine this minus 40 because it doesn't have an x. I can only combine things that have the same letter. All right, my next step is to move my variable. So I'm going to move my variable to the other side. So I see I have a negative 36x here. So to move it over, I can do the opposite of that, which would be a plus 36x. And I do that to get rid of it on this side. And that's going to leave me with negative 40 over here. But whatever I do to one side, I have to do to my other side. So negative 3x plus 36x will give me a 33x. 33x. And I still have this minus 7 on this side, so I'm going to bring that down. And this 33x would now be positive, so I'm going to put a plus between those two. And now I'm done with moving my variables to one side. All right, my next step over there is add or subtract. So I'm going to add or subtract, and I do this with a number that does not have the variable next to it. So that would be this negative 7. So since that's a negative 7, I'm going to do a plus 7 to cancel it out and do the same thing over here. Negative 40 plus 7 will give me negative 33. Negative 33 on this side, the 7's canceled out, and I'm left with 33x. Okay, and I'm done with my adding and subtracting. My last step is multiply or divide. And a number next to a letter means multiply, so I'm going to divide by 33 to cancel out those 33s and leave me with just x. And I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Negative 33 divided by a positive 33 will give me a negative 1. And that is my answer, negative 1. All right, so let's check our work real quick. All right, we got x equaled negative 1. Let me clear all this out. x equaled -1. I'm going to hit enter. My left side said -7 minus 3x. I'm going to hit enter. My right side said -4x minus 8, parentheses 4x, and plus 5. And I see both of these sides equal the same thing, so I know I got it right. Look at that. All right, we got one more practice problem over here. What I want you to do, I want you to try that one on your own. All right, try it on your own. Follow the steps. Don't call me after midnight. Distribute first, then combine your like terms on each side, then move your variable over to the same side, and then add or subtract, and then multiply or divide. Don't call me after midnight will help you solve these equations. Write that DCMAM down the side and try that one on your own. When you're done, get it checked by your teacher, all right? All right, hopefully you understand how to solve multi-step equations when there's variables on both sides. All right, don't call me after midnight will help you remember those steps, and you can solve any equation in pre-algebra or algebra by just following those steps. Don't call me after midnight. Distribute, combine, move your variable, add or subtract, multiply or divide. Those 5 simple steps will lead you to the correct answer. And remember, you can always check your work by plugging it in the Desmos to see if you got it right or wrong. Okay? Anyways, try that equation on your own. All right? I know you can do it. I know you'll do great. Get it checked by a teacher when you're done, and I'll catch you next time in the next video. See you later!